Today in our panel, there are 60, 40 or 60 presentation. That means this a lot, because the time has limited. Therefore, I likely to ask you, try to concentrate, to shorten your presentation, to give the talk timely. The second one, this is after every presentation, we have short answer, question and answer, very short. And on discussion, we concentrate in the ends of morning or in the afternoon. Okay? In the presentation, I'd like to ask you introduce yourself to everybody before talking. Now, this is clear for everybody, yeah? Thank you. First of all, I'd like to invite Professor Andrew Law to presentation. Entitled Rainwater Harvesting and Climate Change and its Impact on Ecosystem. Please.
Thank you very much for my old friend, Professor Hong. A very good morning to everybody. My name is Andrew Lo for short, and I come from Taipei, Taiwan. My university is Chinese Cultural University. This is a private university, and I'm heading the College of Science. And this morning, I'd like to introduce a little bit about rainwater harvesting. Actually, I have been working with this topic for 40 years. Okay, long time. So this is try to relate it to climate change and also to our ecosystem. Okay, so just a little introduction about the climate change, because I think this is very old. Okay, it's IPCC AR5. So we are. Okay. So you can see a lot of these changes being occurring all over the world. Okay, you can see 2-4% increase in rainfall and extreme high temperatures in many places, but sometimes we have very low temperature also in different places. And also along with this, we have droughts and floods. Okay, so droughts have been observed in many places and increased over the last couple of decades. And also, I just mentioned the high intensity storms and also getting more frequent. And some of these occurrences are very rare. Okay, sometimes we have a lot, but sometimes we don't have at all. So with this kind of change, climate change, we are suffering. There's a lot of problems that we have to deal with. Okay, so some of these droughts and heavy rainfall. Okay, so sorry, I think it's a little too fast, but so you can see a lot of people and government cannot have the capacity to cope with this kind of big changes and also very drastic problems. So what can we do? Okay. So one of my proposals is to make use of rainwater harvesting. And so I want to tell a little bit about the advantages. Okay. So you can see rainwater harvesting, we don't have to do it far away from our places that we want to get water very near. And the quality is still not so good, but it's still acceptable, okay, as compared to a lot of other sources, okay, and especially some of this groundwater, which can be very easily contaminated. So some of this rainwater is better than the groundwater that we pump from a lot of polluted source. And this rainwater harvesting can coexist with the existing public water supplies. Okay, so we have no conflict whatsoever with the public water. Okay, so we can work hand in hand with the other sources. Okay? And this is a schematic of how simple it is. We just need a surface to collect some rainwater, and then we store it, and then we distribute it to where we want to use it. Okay? So this is a very simple idea, but it can be very useful. Okay? This is after a big earthquake in Japan. Okay? You can see all these highways being destroyed, damaged, and along with water pipes. Okay? So after big events like this, we might not have water for a long time. Okay? Probably 2-3 months without water. But if we have rainwater harvesting system in place, you still get some rainwater to use during this hard time. And rainwater harvesting can be used in this situation also, like flooding. And this is a picture in Taipei. You can see this how damaging it is. Okay? This storm brings a lot of rainfall, and this flood reaches about 3 meters high, okay, in cities. So the first floor is flooded with water, and people don't have any means to go outside, okay, except you have to store a rubber boat in your house. Okay, so it's very damaging. But I'll tell you a little more how to get rid of this problem later on. Okay, so. And also with rainwater stored in your house, usually you become the owner. Then you will be very conscientious about using rainwater and your water supply, so you conserve your water very carefully. And this technology is very flexible, easy to use. Okay? And you just have to build a container to store your water, and then you can use it. So very easy to use, and you don't need intense labor. Okay, a few workers will be able to construct this system for you to use. So, but I'd like to relate this to climate change. Okay, so this is our main topic here in this forum. So you can see with rainwater harvesting, we become self-water sufficient. Okay, so many cities. I think a lot of countries around Southeast Asia, we build dams very far away from us, okay? Mostly about 100 kilometers away, and then we have to bring the water to our house. So this takes a lot of energy and cost. And also we have to depend on this source. So anything happen upstream will harm the downstream people. Okay? So building dams also create a lot of ecological impact. Okay? Like for instance, house living space, some also agricultural lands being submerged. So you can see a picture of this dams, a small dam in Taipei, and you can see a lot of land is being submerged in water. Okay? And a lot of times we collect water in the dams. Also, in the same time, we collect a lot of sediments. So siltation is a big problem, and it might harm the capacity of the reservoirs. You can see this is another reservoir in Taiwan, a lot of sediments, and you cannot store a lot of water after using it for a number of years. This is just a 20 years old reservoir. Okay, so you can see a lot of siltation problem. Okay? So with rainwater, we decentralize rainwater supply. Okay, so we get water nearby our house. The next advantage is decentralized water source. So we spread our water supply or our water source in the scattered areas. Okay, so we are not as vulnerable as compared to just one or two dams, which is not receiving enough water. Okay, so this is the concept. We scatter our water source within a city. Okay, and this might be more capable in providing water for us. And this is a schematic, okay, that you can see. So we store rainwater in the public buildings, the parks, and also some ponds. And you can see the source is all scattered within the city boundaries. And another advantage is for the ecology is the hydrological cycle. Okay? You can use rainwater harvesting to restore these cycles. So nowadays, a lot of cities built on concrete cement floors. So the city is getting drier and drier because with the cement and concrete, when it rains, water goes to the drain very fast and then goes to the ocean and disappear. And also, along with this material, we absorb a lot of heat. So in cities, we're getting hotter and hotter, which we call heat island effect. So, and we use a lot of air conditioning to keep us more comfortable. And also, you can see a lot of this water cycle, natural water cycle is disturbed. Okay? A lot of water cannot go into the ground and replenish, recharge our groundwater. So the water cycle is not as healthy as before. But if we collect rainwater and then let this rainwater store in drainage ponds like this along the road, then this water can be able and have more time to penetrate and recharge our groundwater. Okay, and so groundwater recharge can help to restore our healthy water cycles. So this water can go very deep, okay, and then being recharged groundwater and also stored there for a long time before it recycled back to our water cycle. And just to show you one example in India, I think we have a lot of participants from India. So this is called Johad in India, and they use earth dam to collect rainwater, and this rainwater is being used for drinking, for livestock, and also for irrigation. And also, as I mentioned a little earlier, this water can percolate into the soil and recharge our groundwater. So this is the system, okay, very simple. We just make a depression and rainwater can store temporarily in the surface. And this water goes underground, okay? So of course, and some of the surface water we can use it for animal drinking and irrigation, okay, which doesn't require high quality water. But some of this water goes underground, and then we can in the nearby dig out the well, dug well, and then we can extract this clean groundwater, okay, for drinking and also for other purpose. Okay, so you can see this water can provide for livestock like goats and other animals, okay, even in the dry seasons. Okay? And you can use it for irrigation, okay, some plants, and you can see you can increase income for the farmers. Okay, so the children are very happy with this kind of systems. And the last one that I'd like to mention is flood control that I just showed you a picture with. Okay, so actually this is the some of the changes, that is happening all over the world. Okay, so a lot of these old pictures changed to these new pictures. We're building a lot of residential area, and this water cannot go into the ground. Okay? So, and if we get a lot of rain, we might get floods very frequently. Okay? So I think a lot of countries, to control flood, we build a lot of these man-made structures, okay, to control this flood water. Okay? A lot of times, usually this doesn't work. Okay? If we overflow, and we still have a big problem. Okay? So if we can store some of this rainwater, okay, in scattered places, then we can reduce the amount of stormwater, and then eventually will reduce the flooding problem. So you can use many facilities in urban areas, like this one is with tennis court. Okay? So you can see this is before and after flood. So you can store a lot of water, okay? And this would not create or a bad flooding problem. We can use this is baseball field, okay? Also, and you can see the before and after, can store a lot of rainwater, okay? Of course, in China, they use, and also in Vietnam, okay? The terraces can be very useful to store rainwater, and the water will not go downstream and create a flooding problem. And in Taiwan, we actually have a lot of these farm ponds in the rural area, and to store water. And also, you can see we built nice facilities. People can drink teas and do a lot of fishing in this area. Okay, so it added some recreational benefits also. So just to conclude my talk, because my chairman said I have to cut it short. Sorry for the quickly. But you can see the conclusion is rainwater is a very important water source, okay, in many areas. When the rainfall is when water is lacking, okay, and also we don't have a centralized public water supply system. Okay, so and as I mentioned earlier, some of this surface water is better than some of this contaminated groundwater. So the quality is no problem, and the only thing is we have to apply this technology wisely, and then we might be able to minimize some of these impacts due to climate change, especially with long dry periods and also flooding problem in many areas. Okay, and thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Cửu Long, for your presentation. Very interesting and especially very practical and timely. Now we have some time for question and comment. Please, any question and comment? Please.
So in one of your slides, you showed how open spaces like a basketball ground or a baseball ground can be used for storing water. This, in India, has created a lot of problems because of competition. What happens is those people who are interested in sports, like for example a football team or a soccer team or a baseball team, they would be against an idea like this because it spoils the ground. Athletes won't want their ground to be filled with water. So we do have such problems. How do we address it?
Thank you for your question. I think it's very practical also. A lot of competitions between the different issues group. Actually, this water is being stored temporarily. Okay, especially with tennis court, we have no problem with it because after the rain stops, we drain out the water and clean the tennis court very easily. But with football, maybe a little difficult. Okay, so some of this water will spoil some of the grasslands and might have to restore it. But this is for critical problems. It's not for ordinary storm. Okay, but for big storms, we might open up this for temporary storage. Actually, I encourage some of this roof. Okay, some housing they have flat roof. They can store some water. Okay, also and for temporary, not for many months, many days. Okay, so temporary is nothing will not harm your construction. Okay, so this is for critical situations. Okay, can be. Okay, they have to withstand this kind of difficulties. Okay, thank you for your question.
Thank you. Any question and comment more? Please. If not, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our panel should change a little bit agenda. The next one, I'd like to invite Dr. Jo Won Lee and Chen Timing with the presentation entitled In situ stabilization of heavy metal and contaminated soil by indigenous material. Please.
Okay, thank you for introducing me, Mr. Chairman. And good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today I'll talk about heavy metals stabilization in contaminated soil or sediment by indigenous bacteria. Okay. And my co-author is Ms. Ming, sitting over there. Okay. My talk today will be followed in order of this slide, including field application results. Okay, is it possible to treat toxic elements in soil, sediment, or natural water using microorganisms? Yeah, as you already know, most organic contaminants can be degraded by microorganisms. And if this mineralization process is completed, then all organic contaminants will turn into water and carbon dioxide. However, as you already know, toxic elements like arsenic, cadmium, and lead, they cannot be broken down until the end of the universe. Arsenic is arsenic, cadmium is cadmium, and lead is lead. So in this regard, we can consider only two options for treatment of heavy metals. The first one is leaching, then is extraction from a solid substrate such as soil or sediment, and disposal. And the second one is in situ stabilization to prevent these toxic elements from migrating downward. Okay. So today I talk about this in situ stabilization using microorganisms. Okay, this microbial sulfate reduction and application has drawn my attention. This sulfate reducing bacteria, SRB, which is ubiquitous in nature, they can reduce sulfate to hydrogen sulfide, like a reduced form of sulfur, in combination with oxidation of some carbon sources. And during this process, they can gain energy to support for growth and maintenance of the cell body. Okay. So during this process, the base metals like lead, zinc, and copper, etc., and even arsenic can be formed by metal sulfide or arsenic sulfide, and they can be precipitated in nature. Okay, so in situ stabilization can be obtained. And this 10 photograph shows the dissolved homunculum cells, which is the representative of SRB in nature. And these cells have produced hydrogen sulfide as a metabolic end product, so that metallic sulfides are produced on cell surface or in the external milieu, indicated by these red arrows. So the objectives of this research are to investigate the effects of activation of indigenous bacteria, indigenous SRB, by organic supply to the geochemical behavior of heavy metals and arsenic, the effects of sulfate amendment to stimulate microbial sulfate reduction in heavy metal behaviors, and finally, application to field conditions. Okay, first I talk about the activation of indigenous SRB. And I chose the two study areas in Korea. One is abandoned gold silver mine soil, and the other is pigment industrial complex sediment in Korea. And as you can see here, this table of physical and chemical properties, these two areas are seriously contaminated by arsenic and other heavy metals. Okay. My experimentation was conducted as a batch experiment. You know, the SRB is a strictly obligated anaerobe. So these all experiments were conducted under anaerobic conditions for 15 to 25 days. And duplicate was employed for accuracy of results. The contaminated soil or sediment was mixed with sterilized deionized water and glucose as a carbon source. an inoculum of indigenous SRB. The 16S rRNA sequencing revealed that this indigenous SRB contained dissolved tumultuum and cross-residue. And this black colored mineral, this is the secondary forming minerals by bacteria. This was mechanowhite, FAS, the iron sulfide, and this is the precursor of the sedimentary forming pyrite, FAS2. Okay, during the process, no significant differences of pH between microbial and control samples observed. So that means pH exerted almost no effects on behavior of metals. And this graph shows the variation in concentration of heavy metals, and these heavy metals dissolved heavy metals in solution. So for cadmium and lead. And as you can see here, indigenous SRB removed more amount of dissolved heavy metals, represented by these red squares, than abiotic controls, represented by these blue circles. So we could conclude that microbial reduction of sulfate to hydrogen sulfide and formation of metal sulfide occurred. Okay? And this same photograph shows the formation of secondary mineral by bacteria. Okay? And typically, this form of rhomboidal structure of minerals, this is a typical example of microbially produced metal sulfide. And this precipitates contain sulfur, iron, and some heavy metals like zinc. Then how about arsenic? So arsenic shows the opposite phenomena with the previous heavy metal behavior. So as you can see here, the microbes enhanced the concentration of dissolved arsenic. And even worse, this dissolved arsenic exists as arsenic-free arsenite. Yeah, as you know, the arsenic-free arsenite is more toxic and more mobile than arsenic 5. Okay? So this result was likely due to some reductive dissolution of iron minerals and arsenate reduction to arsenite by microorganisms. So we amended a high concentration of sulfate to this soil and sediment. And as a result, as you can see here, the microbes significantly removed of dissolved arsenic. Okay, so we could conclude that the amendment of sulfate can lead to effective stabilization of arsenic. And these are results of a column experiment. This column experiment was conducted for another abandoned wood silver mine in Korea. And as you can see here, this is also seriously contaminated with arsenic. This column experiment was conducted as 3 steps. And step A, we input the metal solution to the column soil to contaminate the soil homogeneously. And step B, we inoculated the bacteria and supplied sulfate to microbial column. Or sulfur ion for chemical column. We want to compare the effectiveness of microbial and chemical stabilization. Okay. And you can see here the chemical precipitation of arsenic and copper. The rate of this reaction is more faster than a microbial column. And step C, this is very interesting one. We input the oxygen-rich solution to the column. This is because let's assume that we successfully stabilize arsenic or cadmium in subsurface. But in some day in the future, some unexpected geological event can infiltrate oxygen to the subsurface. Okay? And then precipitated sulfide will be oxidatively dissolved and they will flux out in environment. So we want to check this possibility. So in step C, we input the oxygen-rich solution, and as a result, as you can see here, the chemical column, arsenic and copper was really dissolved in the environment. This is not good. But in case of microbial column, no big significant difference was observed. Okay. So finally, we applied this result to a field condition. for another abandoned old silver mine, and it's also contaminated with arsenic and cadmium. You see the photograph of this, the establishing of these test cells. Okay, test cell dimension was like this, and we incubated 120 days. We amended glucose and sulfate to one test cell, and water to another test cell, and no treatment to the other test cells like this. And after incubation, we could find the amount of soil biomass was higher, much higher than the other test cells, of course. Okay. After 120 days, we took the soil samples from 20, 50, 80 centimeter steps, and we extracted the soil with weak acid, 1 normal and 0.1 normal hydrochloric acid. And we could find this glucose and sulfate cells. We extracted more or less extent of arsenic and cadmium, and the level was below the previous soil criteria in Korea. Okay. So there was two possibilities. One is this arsenic and cadmium was successfully stabilized in soil, so they are very resistant, as not extracted from this weak acid attack. The other possibility is this portion of arsenic and cadmium already dissolved and moved to far distance. Okay? So to confirm this, we extracted the same soil with aqua regia, very strong acid. And as a result of this aqua regia extraction, we could find arsenic and cadmium was still there. They do not move to other places. Okay? So this result, this result indicated that using microorganisms, for example SRB, and addition of some appropriate carbon source can lead to successful in situ stabilization of these toxic elements in subsurface, and also long-term stability of this precipitate. These are conclusions. So stimulation of indigenous SRB may lead to decrease of dissolved heavy metals and arsenic. And for higher remediation efficiency, sulfate amendment can be considered. And field application research also indicated this SRB usage might lead to effective stabilization and long-term stability. So heavy metals and arsenic in subsurface may be stabilized in situ by microbial sulfate reduction, and stabilization of toxic elements can be effectively attained. Okay, that's it. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Professor Lee, for your presentation. Very interesting, clear, and timely. Now we have some time for question and comment, please. Please.
Thank you for your presentation. As you said, microbes consume the arsenic and other heavy metals. Then they get into the system of microbes. What could we do after that? Would it stay still? On the surface? Would it still be harmful to the environment if it is within the microbes? How does it work?
No, this arsenic and cadmium exerted no effects for bacteria, for microorganisms. No, this microorganism has just gained their energy by their metabolism, sulfate reduction, and this sulfate reducing a product, just a byproduct of their metabolic process. So this
doesn't do
no effect on microorganisms.
And let us say I start agriculture in that land after microbial stabilization. Does it have any impact on agricultural activity?
Well, yeah.
Like for example, have there been any tests conducted on the fruits or vegetables for arsenic and lead content?
Yeah, I cannot say this technique can be applied to all depths of soil because SRB can only they can be alive in very deep subsurface. That means no oxygen condition. So lysosphere depth in your farmland, when a shallow soil, this technique cannot be conducted. No.
Thank you.
One more, please.
Thank you very much for the interesting presentation. I'd like to know that did you isolation and identify what species of this
Yes.
microbiome?
Yes. We used 16S RNA sequencing, and we found the indigenous SRB was dissolved macron. Yeah, and besides some close video was also isolated.
And what the identity of gas gas bacteria that you put on the institutes and that in your cells in your that you carry out as yes on your fields.
So you mean?
Did you
Okay.
Tôi muốn biết là ông có bổ sung cái bao nhiêu mật độ vi sinh vật là bao nhiêu vào cái chỗ mà mình thử nghiệm.
Okay. In field application or
Yes.
field? Oh no, I do not. I do not.
Glucose.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
sulfurs on
yeah.
the water.
Yes, I just input some glucose or carbon source and sulfate. That's all. I did not input any isolates. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm clear.
Okay, I think because of time, I think we thank you, Professor Lee, once again. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the next presenter, Dr. Proma. You go out for 1 or 2 minutes. Okay, all right. So let's wait for him a little bit, but this Dr. Proma is from India, Loyola College. Okay, so he's coming back. But if you have any questions, okay. Okay, is Professor Kita here? Kita-san? Or maybe we can move to the next one first. Okay, Kita-san. It's from Ibaraki University, Mito, Japan. I think Professor Kita-san's presentation, the abstract is in the page number 64. Okay, may I introduce Professor Kita-san?
Yes. Thank you, Chairman. My name is Kazukita from Ibaraki University. I'm studying the atmospheric constituent in silicon environment. And I also co-director of the master program of climate change and development in Vietnam Japan University. And some of my students. Okay. I'd like to talk about the short-lived climate pollutant today. Yeah, short-lived climate pollutant called SLCP is defined by the short-lived and climate effects. And indirectly harmful to human health. And single SLCPs are black carbon aerosol, toxic ozone, methane, and ACFC. And today I focus on the BC, black carbon, and toxic ozone. As Professor Diana noted yesterday, to realize the limiting global warming less than 2 degrees or 1.5 degrees, it's necessary to control the SLCP. This is one of the model evaluation of the filter temperature, and this is a difference case, and this blue line shows the only carbon dioxide during case. Because the carbon dioxide has grown lifetime, it is measured to reduce it in matter result. But on the other hand, the SLCP has very short limits, so if we reduce the SLCP emission, the result appears soon. The both CO2 and SLCP mitigation is necessary to control the temperature. This is one of the specification related to forcing of various species. This is the carbon dioxide. You know, the 1.5 grams per meter, and these two the corresponding by increase of toxic ozone and black carbon. This is not comparable with the carbon dioxide, and the SLCP has variability with space and time. So the relative forcing by ozone different with regions. This was the forcing by toxic ozone, and tropical and subtropical regions that influenced by large, and in Southeast Asia there can be relatively high impact. And it is also very caused by black carbon. China, India, and Southern Africa. Moderate impact is expected for the Southeast Asia. And the SLCP, especially in the toxic ozone and black carbon, has a very clear effect on human health. For example, the toxic ozone, breathing ozone can trigger a variety of health problems, especially on the respiratory disease and heart failure. With estimates of respiratory mortality and this mortality is high in China, India, and moderate impact was also seen in Southeast Asia and Japan. And this is the estimated value of regional mortality by year, very big number. So this is source of ozone. Toxic ozone is produced in the chemical reaction in the atmosphere. The natural agricultural methanation and carbon monoxide and hydrocarbon from the burning or some exhaust or fossil fuel combustion, and high NX from the high temperature combustion, they make a chain reaction to E ozone. So to reduce the toxic ozone, we should reduce the carbon monoxide, VOC, including methane and NOx. This is this is micro. It's same image of black carbon. Therefore, we see the right absorbing particle matter, and the main component is soot. So the major component of source of we see the binding of biofuel and also scaffolding and those pieces from diesel cars and industrial coal burning and even on the open burning. International approach to reduce the SFCP. This reduction of SFCP has been for controlling global warming and to reduce the Paris program. So, climate and clean air coalition is funded in 2011, and Japan and Vietnam is a partner. In Vietnam, the major activity to reduce the methane from the rice paddies. In Japan, the reduction of black carbon also and we Japan want to lead Europe regional monitoring network of extension. In case of Southeast Asia, especially in Vietnam, we should monitor the toxic ozone and black carbon. It was very variable, and it's difficult to measure accurately by remote sensing from satellite. So we need to directly monitor. And in South Asia, many we see the heavy operation in the areas, and overburning algal waste, rice residues we also make, and I directly point out the North Vietnam is a gateway transboundary portion from China to Southeast Asia. And this is the open burning satellite image of open burning count in January to December, between January to May, and many forest fires found. This is satellite image of the smoke from burning from this region. In north of Thailand and Myanmar and North Vietnam, many of burning occur. And it's a predict simulation of black carbon. In northern Vietnam, the burning associated in March and April is significant and transported from South China in December and January. Okay. But the direct monitoring topic ozone and black carbon is very limited in Vietnam. I found some papers on topic ozone and different in Hanoi. This is the papers that shows the seasonal variation of topic ozone. And sometimes very high and toxic and severe about the this is rainfall and this is black carbon concentration. In dry season, the many extremely high black carbon events occur. But they pointed out, it is based on the evaluation from the satellite data, not directly measured. So he pointed out his results highlight the need for better air pollution monitoring system for understanding local pollution and environment influence. In general, in Hanoi, Vietnam. Okay. So I'd like to show my own result. And this is tourist also increase in expensive forest fire in Indonesia. During in 1997, during the Caribbean events, in many big fire. I grounded the balloon from here to found the increase of protect ozone very high level. And another satellite data, this wide area is also increasing. So in past during El Nino events, the exotic high ozone is observed around the Indonesian region. And I also have a measurement of the ozone in Thailand. And here in Vietnam, we measure the surface ozone monoxide. And this is the ozone variation of ozone. Our observation shows the periodical increase and decrease is found in dry season and continuous high in local summer. This is connected to the transportation of the quality of air. In dry season, two low ozone itself and high ozone period. High ozone period is connected from the transport from South China. In the local summer, continuous high ozone is due to the high negative emission. So, and in comparison with the 2 years, we see the increase of ozone carbon monoxide in the air transported from South China in 10 years. So and this shows the mass data on the gateway. Okay. This is PM transferred from South China, Southeast Asia, here mass data. Okay, but good news. Decrease of black carbon aerosol in the air mass from China. I monitoring in Japan, in I'm monitoring black carbon here. And I found here the many high, this is the red shows the carbon monoxide and blue shows the black carbon concentration. Slightly increase shows the non-boundary pollution events from China to Korea to Japan. And many pollution events found. But in this black carbon concentration in this event is clearly decreased since 2016. Probably the mitigation measures in China working, I think. Okay, so I'm now planning to measure the ozone, black carbon monoxide in 2.5 in Vietnam, Japan University of Taiwan. These are photos of center and Vietnam Japan University located here. So I bring these instruments to the Vietnam Japan University and now start. It's not my data, it's US Embassy data, in 2.5 version in 2016 and 2017. Some big, very urgent events are found. Okay, and even in these raw period, the average concentration of 2.5 exceeds Japanese standard. Like three groups. When the upper 25 percentile of breakout came 2.5. This figure shows the 7-day backward trajectory and red shows the high PM 2.5 event. So most of the high PM 2.5 events is totally transferred from South China around south coast of China. That is indicate PM 2.5 in Hanoi is affected by transported from South China. Yes, the ozone breakdown sequence SLCD and the reduction is essential to suppress the global warming and the issue of health risks by air pollution. The ozone breakdown these sources and continuous monitoring of these species are necessary to understand climate health influence of SLCD and their sources. So this will make countermeasure to or average or projection of climate change. Thank you.
Time is running out, so I think we'll not entertain any questions, but I think we have more time during the coffee break to ask questions with Professor Kita. Thank you very much. Let's move on to the next presentation, which is I already introduced, but again, Professor Dr. Bro from India is going to present something about plastic pollution management. Okay, so he's from Loyola College. Okay, please, Doctor.
I'm here to talk to you about the plastic waste management in India and an urgent need to intervene. Well, we all know why we should talk about plastic waste. One, there is a ubiquitous use of plastics in the packaging industry, marine pollution, land pollution, and of course air pollution. When the plastic waste in the landfills are burnt in the open air, they release a lot of toxic air, and that causes severe air pollution and health issues for the communities that are living nearby. Essentially, those are poor and people who cannot afford valuable health care. So that is the kind of people who it affects directly, and it also affects the whole world in a bigger way. Now, if you see the global production of plastics, it's gone up from 1915 now, it's in the year 2016, the latest data that I have, it's up by 350 million tons a year. So cumulatively, if you see, we have produced something like 8 billion tons of plastic in the past 60-65 years. 8 billion tons of plastic means for every one single individual living on this earth, we have produced a ton, 1,000 kilograms of plastics. Now, if you were to see the plastic consumption by the industrial sector, plastics by themselves are not bad. For example, these computers, the mechanism that I have here, the projectors, are all made of plastics. Today we live like Stone Age or Metal Age. We live in a plastic age. We cannot think of a life without plastics. But then, where we produce and how we dispose is the actual problem. If you see today, packaging industry is the biggest user of plastics. 146 million tons of plastics was produced for packaging industry. And that, now, packaging industry, the plastic average life is less than half a year. Simple. For example, when we eat food, when we drink water in a mineral water in a bottle like this, the use of this is gone after 15 minutes. But then that plastic goes on to stay for another 1,000 years. So today we are producing more plastic which has a shelf life of practically 0 to a few months. That means we are going to dispose so much of plastic into the environment. And if you see what happens globally to the plastics, nearly 100% of the plastics in the 80s were discarded. But today, as much as 45 to 50% of plastic gets discarded. Remember, we have also increased the plastic production. Today it is 350 million, but in the 80s it was hardly a few million. We have increased manifold the production of plastic, and we are discarding nearly 60% of them carelessly. Global waste disposal, if you were to see, a very small, tiny percentage is getting recycled. Hardly 20% is getting recycled. The rest of it is all out there in the open landfills, or where you find the so-called marine pollution, etc. We find them everywhere. And if you want to see how at the regional level, mismanagement of plastics across the world, you would find China, India are the biggest culprits. So plastic waste disposal, careless disposal of plastic waste happens mostly in Asia. And this is a scary number because we are the biggest, China and India have the largest population in the world. And if we are going to be careless about plastic disposal, we are going to do a lot of harm to the environment. Which is why all this occurs. Now, if you see here, this graph tells us that yes, global per capita consumption in Asia is much smaller compared to what it is in North America or Western Europe. It is even smaller than the world average. World average is something like 28 kilograms per person. And in India, it's about 11 kilograms per person. And China is thrice the per capita consumption of plastic in China is 3 to 4 times that of India. But then, the biggest problem lies here, as we have seen in the previous slide. If these countries are going to mismanage plastic, they are going to cause a lot of harm simply because the population is huge and most of the plastic is going in for packaging industry. Now, how did India respond to this plastic pollution? There was something like in the year 2000, there was a municipal solid waste management rules that were brought in. And in 2016, again these rules were rewritten with more focus on plastics. Now, the salient features of the plastic waste management rules are: one, the size of the plastic, where to say a packaging material, packaging plastic cover should not be below 50 microns, 40 microns. So there was one such rule. Secondly, the responsibility of the waste generator. Every city municipal waste corporation was expected to segregate plastic and dispose plastics more carefully. So these are all on the rules. Responsibilities of the producers and the brand owners. So if I am the owner of this brand, I am expected to take back this plastic. So this is again, the responsibility is fixed with the owner. And all plastics produced were to be marked or labeled as recyclable 1, 2, 3. There are 7 types of plastics. You might know that already. So I'm not going into that. So you have to mark it, what is the type of plastic, and you'll have to say it is recyclable. There is a prescribed authority. The pollution control boards are fixed with the responsibility of holding people accountable for polluting. Then the retailers and street vendors, particularly the largest number of people who use the carry bags, were advised to stop using thin plastic covers below 40 microns. And explicit pricing. If I were to go to a shop and buy something, then that plastic cover, if I were to ask for a plastic cover, I should pay for it. So these were all some of the rules that were incorporated into the plastic waste management rules. There were, of course, state level monitoring committees that were meant to monitor it. So this is how the whole rules were built. But then, issue is with the implementation. In India, the problem is how we implement these rules. It is very easy for me to go to a shop and get plastic covers without paying an extra money. And plastic paper, plastic covers thinner than 50 micron is very commonly available, especially the street vendors and shops, they sell it. So there is no way the government's rules have really come into the practice. And secondly, there are states that have simply banned. For example, my own state, I come from the state of Tamil Nadu. There they have said, from the 1st of January, we will ban all plastics. It simply won't work. And this would lead to corruption, a lot of people the politicians and government officials making money. They would take a lot of bribe money, but it will not solve the problem. But today in India, 25 states have some kind of a ban or other on plastics, but these bans, despite some of them having existed for 15 years, they are not good. So, you can see how this is just outside my college. This photograph is just outside my college. You can see how plastic is thrown everywhere. And this is the garbage can. This is the garbage can. The garbage can is clean. Everywhere around is dirty. Right? This is another scene. You can see plastic covers filled with organic waste or kitchen waste filled inside. Now, I understand you have a similar problem in Vietnam as well. This picture I took near the Marriott Hotel. So you do have a similar problem here as well. Now, what happens? All this plastic goes to landfills. Now, this is not a mountain. This is a landfill. This is a landfill near my city. Now, you can see the cars. These are big cars, these are big trucks. So if you compare this truck with this hill, imagine how big is this. We have thousands of such places in my country. I'm sure all over Asia you will find this problem. Now we are trying to find a solution to this. If you want to see, I will be done in 1 minute, sir. Have I overshot my time? Just a minute more. Now, if you make an analysis of what kind of waste goes into the landfills, bio waste should be about 60%, debris, that is building construction debris, should be about 20-25%, and the plastic waste would be about 8 to 10%. Now there can be others, maybe some hospital waste or maybe some glass, etc. Some metal waste could be there. So majority is bio waste and debris and plastic waste. Now, if we can employ an entrepreneurial solution, it's a model. Take the landfill waste, segregate a little bit, maybe a small portion like this, into plastic waste, non-plastic and bio waste. From bio waste, we produce through biomethanation plant, we produce the gas, and the gas is used to help clean, melt and mold the plastic into mass products. The rest of the waste from biomethanation plant can go for natural fertilizers. From bio waste, again it can go for natural fertilizers. And here, the non-plastic waste can be crushed and construction industry could benefit out of it. Now landfills are rich sources of raw materials for such an activity. Especially with organic waste, biomethanation plants today can help produce methane gas through which we can produce electricity and we can run this whole thing in a self-sustainable manner. Now, what products? Many of us think about upcycling a product. Like for example, a bottle like this, you make something more beautiful out of a waste plastic bottle. Now, that still has to go to the market and somebody should buy it. So that is a problem. Whereas if we were to produce mass products like these, for example, tiles, or for example, these road dividers, solid road dividers. If we can produce these platform stones and we can sell it to the government, any government would be interested in these products because this would reduce their landfill content and we can redeem the landfills this way. So this is a simple entrepreneurial solution that I am working on, and I would be very glad to interact with the audience here and see how we could work together on this problem. And this problem, a solution to this problem can be replicated across the world. Thereby, it would benefit the entire global community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Promo. One short question for Dr. Promo, Alex.
Maybe just a comment. So in Australia, the richest persons over the past 20 years always came out of the mining industry. Last year, the richest person actually is the king of recycling in Australia. And in a way, it's pretty much the same. You have a resource, as you explained, they are mining it.
Mining that resource.
Exactly, and recycling.
Thank you very much.
That's very rich.
That makes me feel very good. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, once again, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's move on to the next presenter. We have Dr. Yuan, and from UNV, University of Science. Okay, please, Dr. Yuan.
Thank you very much for Chairperson for the kind introduction. I'm very happy to be here to share our research about developing sustainability index for Vietnam coastal zone in the context of climate change. So as you know, Vietnam has more than 3,000 kilometers coastline and 28 provinces with 117 districts, with the density 1 kilometer coastline per 100 square kilometer total area. Coastal zone rich in natural resources and biodiversity, but over-exploitation, highly vulnerable from human activity, natural hazards, and global changes. So I can quickly show you some of the diversity in natural resources with a lot of beautiful beaches, the sea harbor, mineral extraction, sea crab, and mangrove. But also, this area has highly vulnerable natural disaster and climate change. As you see, that's a more presentation about hurricanes moving and erosion, sea rise, and also. So some other aspect from the human activity and economic development from the power factory and also sewage and the mineral extraction you can see in the picture. And so that our research established the map about the vulnerability list for coastal zone and also the resilience. As you see in the map, and you can see the Mekong Delta River and Red River Delta as two of the most vulnerability. So, research object is to determine the theoretical and practical basis for sustainability assessment process and to develop sustainability index for coastal zone of Vietnam. The second, to do experimental assessment of sustainability in three locations from North, Central, and the South Vietnam for testing and quantifying possible in other coastal zones of Vietnam. And the third is propose the solution for applying SI toward proactive response to climate change, sustainable use of natural resources and environmental protection. And expected result about the sustainability index for coastal zone of Vietnam. The report on application of SI to determine the sustainability level in three areas, and the last proposal report about solution to apply sustainability index in Vietnam in the context of climate change. So in this slide, we just show you the approach and distinction between the sustainability and sustainable development. And you can see sustainability is the lever and ability to maintain the favorable condition, almost a core value for harmonious development between human and nature. So with the value following the time is the area for sustainable. And developing SI for coastal zone depend three main systems: natural system, social system, and human system. So in the side of the three main systems is the sustainability. And more detail about the natural system and compartment of natural system is the input and basic for development. And the social system is the condition for development and human system participator, involving the interaction between the exploit, produce, develop, and design for economic, technology, and knowledge. Principle for developing SI. So number one is to be abider, following the socio-economic development strategy of government. And the second, to review the advantages and disadvantages about the positive content of UN index with modification to suitable application for Vietnam condition. And the third, SI is necessary to inherit information from National Action Plan of Vietnam. And the fourth, the potential applied real world Vietnam coastal zone. And the last, the SI developed to the 2030 vision and strategy. So, point of view of developing SI. As you know, the coastal zone of Vietnam is a complex system of natural conditions under strong interaction between continental and ocean, with high density of anthropogenic activity. The second, human as center of sustainability maintenance. As you know, yesterday we saw a lot of the present about the human activity, adaptation, and migration for climate change. And the third, social system is developed, maintaining the social equality, maintaining culture and historical value, promoting economic development and modern infrastructure for enhancing reason country connects to smart response to climate change. And promoting cooperation among coastal zone and other regions, country and international community, and enhancing solidarity among community coastal zone. So, in the role of the sustainability maintenance in the research, our research. For the natural system, we have a 6 goals from 1 to 6. For example, value and management of natural resources, conservation and sustainable use of ocean natural resources in coastal zone for sustainable development, protection and restoration in coastal line and marine environment, comprehensive assessment of threat from natural disaster and climate change, and the last, effectively implement disaster prevention and climate change response activity. For the social system, we have 7 roles from 7 to 13 about suitable for unexploited coastal area. Improve economic development with high production and sustainability. Promote and support the dynamic and development of economic in coastal zone. Promote sustainable industry enhancing innovation. Building modern infrastructure available for economic development and high resistance for natural disasters and climate change. Development safe and resilient coastal city, and promote sustainable product and consumption, enhancing solidarity and cooperation among communities in coastal zone. And the last, for the human system, we have 2 roles. The first is comprehensive human development, healthy life, inclusive and graceful education, enhancing welfare and gender equality, empowerment and bringing opportunity for women and girls. And for short summary, I can show you the sustainability of 3 main systems. For nature system, we have natural resources, ecosystem, environment, natural resources, and climate change. For social system, have population, infrastructure, economy. The last, the human system, is the human development and gender equality. So, sustainability index in coastal zone of Vietnam have in nature indicators. You see the natural resources. We define 7 indicators and 28 criteria. Also, the same in ecosystem, environment, disaster, climate change, civil rights. For social population, 1 indicator and 3 criteria. Economic and the same in the infrastructure. And the last human in the development with 5 indicators and gender equality with 1 indicator. So, how we can application of SIE? The sustainability index can be used to develop interdisciplinary metadata for analysis. Sustainability of Vietnam in context of climate change. The sustainability index can be applied for coastal area and other specific areas. Local government can be used to SI for monitoring in the disaster and change of the sustainability view. And the last, providing useful data for enhancing sustainability view, proposing wise use of natural resources, such as environmental protection and climate change response. So that's all our research, and thank you for the attention.
Thank you. Very interesting topic. Can I entertain one short question from the audience, please?
So good morning. I am the potential working in the Central Institute for Natural Resources and Environmental Studies, Vietnam National University. Thank you for presentation. It's a very good presentation. If you have the sustainability index, so have a tool to measure the sustainability in the nation. I have 2 questions. So what are the similarity and difference between the sustainable development indicator or index and sustainability indicators? Similarity is one. Yeah. The second one is that how to measure the indicator as they are comparable among them. Because we compare the natural aspect, the social, institutional, etc. So how to measure put together? So have to overall the sustainability index. Thank you.
The question is too long, but you give a short answer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. So we have more detail in outside, or maybe the copyright, but in a little bit, I can show you the sustainability in the we can more detail about the core value of the natural resources, the human system and social system. Different in the sustainable development, you can see the equal of the environment, social and economic. That's almost the difference between the 2 concepts. So maybe I can more discuss about outside. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for short answers. Thank you. Okay. Thank you once again, Dr. Yuan. Thank you. Let's move on to the last presenter of this morning section, Dr. Yuan Khoa. Okay. He's with the same institution, okay, Nguyên University and also University of Science. Okay, please, Dr.
Good morning. My name is Công from University of Science, Video Ho Chi Minh. Today I would like to present my study related to the cause and mechanism of river bank traced in the Vietnamese Mekong Delta. So here the content of my presentation includes the 5 parts: background, setting, methodology, result, discussion, and conclusion. Okay, let's move to the background. In this video, This is the Mekong Delta. It's located in the downstream area of Mekong River Basin, and also located in the south Vietnam. So in recent years, this delta has faced increasing number of landslides along the river and the coastal. So according to the Ministry of Rural Agriculture and Rural Development, so there are around 562 around this time, and with the total land around 800 kilometers. So because of this problem, so I select this area as a case study to try to understand the mechanistic links between the delta erosion and human and natural process. And based on this understanding, maybe we will push the initial for sustainable development of the river delta. So there are many efforts to monitor the riverbank trends by using the ECT measurement, the modeling, and also the remote sensing. So among of them, the remote sensing has advantage because this technique allows to explore a full range of spatial and temporal variation of the river system with minimum cost and effort. So for the Mekong Delta, so also there are many efforts to monitor the river trend and also the coastal trends in this data by the remote sensing. So however, there is still limited comprehensive research conducted for the mega data from the different hydrological regime from the intertidal to the river dominated zone. So the objective of my study is to provide a comprehensive views of the riverbank erosion and acquisition processes in this data. So here the study area, the Mekong Delta, the end of the Mekong River Basin here, and also the South Vietnam. So the Mekong River flows through in Vietnam and divided into two branches. This is the Mekong River and the Basat River. Before pouring into the sea, the river divides into the 8 estuaries. So as the figure here. So this delta has account around more than 50% of rice and fruit production in Vietnam, and Vietnam is one of the top agricultural exporters worldwide. And the climate in this area is the tropical climate monsoon, and divided into distinct seasons, the dry and the wet season. The mean annual river discharge of this delta is about 13,000 square cubic meter per second, and the mean annual sediment loss about 73 megaton per year. And in the wet season, around 70 to 85% of annual discharge and 80 to 90% sediment loss happen within the wet season. And the tidal regime in this area is the semi-diurnal with the maximum tidal range about 2.5 to 3.0 meter. And this slide here shows the framework of my study. So in this study, I analyzed the riverbank trends using the remote sensing technique, and I did the Landsat image data here from the 1989 to 2000 to 2040 to analyze the riverbank trends. And I did the modified normalized different water index here to extract the water from the other object. For example, from the urban area, from the vegetation, or also from the bay soils. And after extract the soil lines, I use the disaster tool to calculate the change rate of the aggression and also the erosion in this area, and extract the map for the morphological change. And I also conduct field survey multiple times in this area to support our analysis here. So after calculate the rate of morphological change, I classify into 7 levels from the high, medium, and low erosion, stable bank, and low, medium, and high aggression. And by the study of group delta here, I divide the Mekong delta into 3 parts. And the reason one is the river dominated zone, and the region, the area, the second area here is the tidal dominated region, and the first area here is the coastal area. And I try to analyze the river trend for the three area here. Okay, let's move to the result discussion. In the first region, the river dominated zone here. From the map here, we can see the erosion mainly occurs in the Mekong River here. This can be explained by because this river has a higher level of minerality compared to the Basat River here. We can see the river here quite straight, but this is more minerality compared to this one. So that this area has a high, mainly the erosion occurs in this area, in this river. And based on the field surveys, we found that the erosion mechanism in this area may be the two scoring with the consequent landslide of the river bank. And from the map here, we identify the four typical area here. And the first area is the southwest, and this area. Sorry. This area and this area is typical for the middle river segment. And this area here, the bank erosion for the bank erosion in the upstream of the islands. And this area here for the flow by the flow division. Okay, this here is the bank erosion in the middle river segment, and this one is the bank erosion in the upstream area of the islands. And in the region of the two islands here, we can find some erotic sign in the downstream of the islands. This can be explained by the scoring effect between the two islands. I mean the flow when the river through here may cause some erosion sign around this area. And this here the example of the bank erosion resulting from the flow bifurcation. And we can see the movement of the islands following the flow direction to the sea. In addition to the morphological characteristics, the erosion and the accretion process are considered affected by the changes in the sediment supply and hydrological regime, resulting from the sand mining in the upper Mekong Delta and also in the southern Mekong Delta. The map here we can see the extraction, the sand extraction side along the river. You see a lot here along the river and also in the Cambodia side. So the sand mining may reduce the stream flow and also reduce the flow velocity and also reduce the sediment. So this might cause the erosion in this area. And the second reason, the construction of cascade dam in the main stream. We can see here up to 2025, around more than 120 hydropower dams will construct along the Mekong River. And the third reason is because the movement of the typhoon. Before the typhoon come in the north, but now they change the direction to the south. So it may reduce the sediment generation in the upstream and maybe reduce the sediment in the Mekong Delta. And the construction of local water infrastructure in controlling floods in this area, and also the waste generation from the water waste transportation, also called the riverbank erosion in this area. In the second region, the tidal dominated zone, we can see the riverbank here is relatively stable because the river here is quite straight and the flow is slow. And this river here, the riverbank here is formed by the cohesive sediment and protected by the mangrove forest. And we can see the river segment near the estuary here, the mainly erosion, except the Balai river here is the accretion. This can be explained by the operation of the sluice gate in this river or the salinity prevention. And the mechanism for the erosion in this river here in the tidal fluctuation related to soil collapse. We can see the tidal fluctuation is quite high, from 2.5 to 3 meter. And also the wave generation from the ship traffic, and also the micro deforestation also called the riverbank erosion along this river here. And in the third region, the coastal zone, we can see the erosion and accretion in the coastal zone occurs alternatively along the shoreline. And the region can be affected by the wave influence and also the northeast monsoon and mangrove deforestation and the sediment deficit from the sand mining and the diving in the upstream. So here are some conclusion. We see the first area, the erosion and accretion in the medium and the high level. And the main erosion mechanism is the two score and the low slope erosion. For the second region, the tidal dominated zone, the riverbank is quite stable. And the erosion process with the medium level occurs in the river segment near the estuary. And the mechanism in this area is tidal fluctuation related to soil collapse. And in the coastal area, the mechanism in the monsoon influence erosion. So in the future, I will try to do some high resolution satellite and also the modeling work to try to understand the impact of the future development on the river bank erosion in this area. So that's all for my presentation.
Thank you very much. Very interesting presentation. Any one short question, please? If not, can I ask one? Okay. Oh, one. Oh, okay.
Vâng, cảm ơn anh về bài thuyết trình. Cho em hỏi một chút là cái số liệu của anh là lấy từ khoảng bao nhiêu năm trở lại đây? Từ năm bao nhiêu đến năm 2014 ạ?
From 1989.
Vâng, với cái khoảng năm đấy. Với khoảng năm đấy thì cái số liệu mà ví dụ như là bồi lấp của cái giai đoạn nào nó vượt hơn hẳn so với những giai đoạn trước, để mình có thể thấy là nó có liên hệ gì đối với biến đổi khí hậu hay không? Hay là tức là trong cái giai đoạn nghiên cứu ấy, có một cái giai đoạn nào đấy mà cái số liệu về xói mòn và bồi lấp nó bị tăng lên một cách khác thường nào, hay là có điểm dị thường trong thời gian nghiên cứu đấy không? Thì từ cái số liệu đấy thì có nói lên là vì sao cái thời gian đấy cái số liệu đấy tự nhiên nó lại tăng bất thường như thế?
In this presentation, I just try to, investigate the whole periods. So maybe in the next step, I will divide it into few periods to identify which period is the riverbank erosion is more severe.
Okay, thank you. I have a similar question also to you. You said the two river, one is meandering, one is restrict, but looks like the one restrict deliver a lot of sediment to the sea because of the higher speed. So you don't have the coastal. You have erosion along the river, and it's less with the strict one, but it's more delivery sediment to the ocean. So I don't know which one is good or bad to the ocean or to the riverbank. So just for your comment.
Maybe I will try to translate.
Okay, sorry for the difficult question. Sorry. So I think once again, thank you very much. Okay, thank you. So I think we still have a little time. According to the program, we should have a panel discussion. So I think I want to spend a little time among the audience, see if you have any suggestions, especially for future proposals. We need to draft up some proposal for the organizers so we can work on some cooperation between countries and different regions. Okay, so up to the floor, and any proposal, or you want to see something cooperation in the future, please take this opportunity to give us some suggestion, please. Alex, please.
I have one for Dr. Tai. So we just, Alex Smidle from the Mekong Region Futures Institute in Bangkok. We just developed a sustainability index for the MRC, the Mekong River Commission, and when we did that as part of the council study, I can send you all the documents if you want. But when we did it, it was very important to the governments, that includes the Vietnamese government, that our starting point is not sort of theoretical, but the SDGs. And I mean, the 17 goals come with 241 attributes, indicators, right? So that was politically really important. If you want to have traction in the policy system, I recommend to create a bigger overlap to those 241 indicators. And in terms of proposal, the MRC is now really shifting quite a lot of resources into this topic because all the countries have to report against SDGs. There's no sustainable development goals. So there's 17 sustainable development goals, and all countries at the UN level have to report. They have to write annual reports. And with that, all supranational institutions like the MRC also in the future they will have to report. Right? So if you do this and you don't connect, you're most likely not finding a lot of audience in the future. So if you develop a proposal on a new project, I would really do that with and through the MRC, at least the VNMC, Vietnamese National Mekong Committee. That's sort of a strong suggestion.
Very good, thanks.
So thank you very much for the advice. So I think one of the more difficulty when we collect the data is the sustainability index have a lot of data. So it's quite difficult to choose how is the adaptation for Vietnam condition. So I think it's we have more detail and maybe more value. Thank you and so thank you very much.
Very good. I think this is one good proposal that we can cooperate with the SI indicator. And you have very complicated 41 indicators. I think I was wondering how can you get all the data? I think we need cooperation from other departments. Also, thank you, Alex. Also. Any other suggestions or proposals? Oh, Alex, please.
Sorry, so I have one other suggestion for the last speaker on, who was it again? Yes, so so the MRC again does a lot on erosion and what's the effect of mainstream dams. And the projections are that sediment loads arriving in the Mekong Delta will drop more than 90%. Right? So creating this hungry river effect. And in terms of future proposal development, I've seen many of these kind of studies, and they have very little impact on policy without showing the dollar value. And adding a component to your project where you show what is the impact in terms of dollar values, in terms of livelihoods, in terms of food security, then suddenly you create a lot of policy impact, because these socioeconomic elements are really the elements that matter, right? And to a lot of people, this is absolutely meaningless. 3 meters, 5 meters, who cares? I mean, once you show the economics behind it, there's hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, and huge impact on food security. So that's another suggestion to maybe expand this kind of assessment and add some of these socioeconomic variables, and if possible, again, using some of the SDGs, because that's the future. If you don't, then you become relevant, and you will get more funding, and you will get more audience.
Thank you. Any response? Okay. Last thing.
I have a suggestion to you, sir. to the chair. You mentioned about the rainwater harvesting system in India. So there is a very well-renowned expert, Bani Rajinder Singh. He is a very well-renowned expert from India on rainwater harvesting. He's done amazing work in Rajasthan, other parts of India as well. So I would be able to put you in touch with him. He is also a Magsaysay Award winner. So
Yes. We have contact with Indian people also, but but not with him, but with other institute NGOs.
Okay.
And India is very pioneer in the harvesting rainfall.
Very important.
Yeah. Thank you. No, nothing on plastic.
Plastic, I would be happy to get the comments from the audience, and I would be very happy to get some ideas how we could implement this. Thank you.
And Professor Lee, any heavy metal? Professor Kita.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah. In Japan, many people act for the recycling the plastic bottle. Wash the after use, wash bottle and compress, and so use very clean recycle. It's a resource. But even in Japan, the many of the used bottle is exported to China and make more molding and some marketing. But this year the China government
banned it.
They stopped the import.
Correct. They stopped it.
So probably it may be a chance for the India or other country to make us new industry.
See, what I think that the Chinese have done by stopping inflow of plastic waste is a good thing, because in each of these countries, technologies would be developed and it would be employed to clean their environment. For example, in India, we do not need foreign waste. The waste that we have in India is plenty already. So we can apply the technologies to improve the condition in India as well. The plastic waste that you are talking about, these bottles, can be recycled. But the real ones that are a problem are the plastic carry bags. And the carry bags have no recycling value, so people don't recycle it. We should find a solution to that problem, because almost all marine pollution is carry bags and other food packaging.
Maybe one other idea. So first, the plastic bags. I mean, there's lots of experience in other countries. Like
yes.
In Europe and Australia, they are banned.
They are banned, correct.
Right. So that's, and I think lots can be learned, because a lot of this, I mean, ban is nothing else than a new incentive, right? So other incentives are market incentives where you have to pay. So you change cost structures. So there's, I think, a lot we can learn which incentives can work, which incentives can't work. But maybe to connect two of these projects and thinking about new proposals. So you showed a few examples in terms of road construction, how hard plastics can be used, right? And in Australia,
they do that, yes.
That's all the time. That's why some people get very rich, right? Because you get free resources, lots of subsidies to collect them, and then you sell them for a huge amount of money back to the government. Right? That's the principle, and that's also what the societies want, because it avoids other costs, because landfills are very expensive. So that is cheaper for the society than maintaining and establishing landfills, right? Makes a lot of sense. But why not connecting that to the erosion problem? What I haven't seen in the world so far is, and again, the council study pointed out that Vietnam has to invest something like, I can't remember, $300 million or so in riverbank enforcements to avoid erosion, because the loss of land and food security is just so immense, it's so expensive, that it's better to invest in riverbank enforcement. And in Cambodia and in Thailand, this is mainly done through concrete, right? And partly also here, which again we heard yesterday is a huge mitigation problem, right? About greenhouse gases and so on. So why not using some plastic-based solution like tiles that are sort of enforced in the riverbank itself, right? Maybe there's a solution where private business could come on board and again become very rich. Right?
I hope so.
Yeah, so maybe that's an idea where you can...
I think that's a great idea. That's a great idea. To comment on the ban, bans in India typically don't work because the governments are very corrupt. They're very corrupt. Government, most of the, let's say the corporation levels or, the councillor levels, the lower level, these are all run by the local bodies. And the local bodies have a lot of interest, lobby and other interests in the local infrastructure. So corruption is very, very serious. And ban generally has a problem. For example, in my state in Tamil Nadu, the government about 10 years ago banned what is called pan masala and gutka. That is nicotine-based, some kind of a chewing stuff. So you chew it, it is nicotine-based and it's harmful to health. My state government banned it several years ago, but you can still find it in every shop. Every shop you can find it. And so, when governments and the different layers, maybe the central government is honest about what it wants to do, but the different layers of the government should identify the problem. If they don't identify the problem, and if they think that they can make money out of these bans, then the bans won't work. So I think that is fundamentally an issue in India. Yeah. Which is why civil society and entrepreneurs have a greater role to play.
Okay, thank you very much for this good exchange. I think to support the plastic bottles, we make buildings out of this. So we can use it for building materials also. So plastic house. Okay, so I think it's very healthy. I think we have a good exchange this morning section. I think everybody's very thirsty now. It's about time to have a coffee break. And welcome back about 11 o'clock. We'll have a second section. And before we go, we give a round of applause to all the presenters this morning. It's been very interesting and very exciting. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Fine. One last. Such stories, please.
Hello everybody, I'm Shani Bhattacharya from India, and today I would like to present my research work entitled
I'm Shan Bhattacharya from India. Today I'd like to present my research work entitled Socio-Environmental Survey and Sustainable Management of a Forest Hamlet proximate to Mahananda Wildlife Sanctuary in the Eastern Himalayas. So I have been working in the Eastern Himalayas, a mountain range, for the last 6 years, and we have been trying to survey socio-environmentally the villages, the small villages over there, and how people interact with nature in several dimensions, and what are the threats Himalayas are facing because of having this kind of habitation and the development of ecotourism activity. So, Himalayas are the highest mountain ranges in the world, spreading across India, Nepal and Bhutan. The Eastern Himalaya region is a study area of mine. It's a meeting ground for the Indo-Malayan, Palearctic and Japanese biogeographical race. The forests of the Eastern Himalayas sustain many rivers, which are the lifelines for provinces and the countries downstream. For centuries, a unique culture was developed here, and if you see, this is the mountain range. So what we did actually, we apart from having the survey work, we also have done some photographic documentation during our survey, so that we can have a visual understanding of the place. So this is one of the biggest mountain ranges in the Eastern Himalaya. And you can see this. These are the forest areas. So there are a lot of forest areas over there, like Kanchenjunga Conservation Area, Mahananda Wildlife Sanctuary, Nirva National Park, Singalela National Park, Central Wildlife Sanctuary, and a lot of endemic species you can find here, and a lot of medicinal plants with high medicinal value you can also find. So, my study area is Latpanchar, is a small village situated in the Darjeeling district, West Bengal area. It is one of the more new tourist destinations in the Eastern Himalayas and proximate to Mahananda Wildlife Sanctuary. So, it is becoming a popular tourist destination because of the Himalayan ranges and biodiversity. And these are the places which are of some interest. Sitong is a small forest village proximate to Latpanchar. And also Namting Lake, which is famous for having the Himalayan salamander, which is an endemic species in that region. So you can see this is the village area as proximate to the wildlife sanctuary. Now the survey methods, the present study aims to analyze and interpret the physical and cultural environment of the forest and mountain areas. And the primary data was gathered through field survey and direct contact with the common people and authorized center of the regions. Structured questionnaire and semi-structured interviews supplemented with field notes. The interaction was mainly in the local dialects like Hindi and Bengali language, and photographic documentation was done in every phase. Now you see these are the biodiversity elements found in Mahananda Wildlife Sanctuary. Lot of mammals, birds, especially the Himalayas are famous for birds. The center for the ornithologist, and you can find lovely birds like scarlet minivet and green-backed tit, Eurasian tree sparrow, and this diversity is being threatened by climate change as well. Now this is we documented these photographs over there, and Latpanchar is famous for this hornbill species, and this bird migrated to Latpanchar from Nepal hills due to climatic condition, and now these local people are taking initiatives to conserve these bird species, and a lot of tourists are going over there to take the photos of the birds, and this is their nesting ground. And you can go in the early morning, you can see the bird behavior over there, and this is a response shift in this in the village. Previously, there was some disturbance in the habitat of the birds because many villages used to throw stones on them, and gradually they realized that this is one one of the potential of ecotourism over here. People are coming because of this wonderful species. Now, instead of disturbing the birds, they are trying to conserve the bird. And they have taken a lot of initiatives, like they have constructed artificial nests so that the bird can come here. They are taking the tourists in the morning to observe the nesting behavior of the bird. They have when they have some social networking site like Facebook pages where they are sharing the photographs. So they are very much encouraged to promote the conservation of the bird instead. Now, agriculture. Most of the places have organic farming, and interestingly, the adjoining area of Latpanchar is a Sikkim area. Now the Sikkim entire state has been declared as organic state. There is no use of any synthetic pesticide over there. All of them are practicing steppe cultivation and having organic farming, having cow dung, and also they used to collect forest soil from the forest area, because this forest soil are being enriched by micronutrients, and these are beneficial for plant growth. So in the different silviculture units and in the private practices, they are bringing the forest soil and they are using it in agriculture. Now, the main source of the water in Latpanchar is the local springs. The more or less the same kind of pattern you can find in the Eastern Himalaya for water management. The springs flow below the ground and natural filtration of water happens while passing through the soil layers, and water is collected in these storage tank. I can show you the photographs. These are like the storage tanks, but the jhoras or natural spring water can be deposited here. And now these are the storage tank in the villages. From that main storage tank, the water has been distributed over there. And now, because of ecotourism, they have initiated rainwater harvesting. So the local inhabitants have constructed the aluminium gutters at the corner of the roofs for collecting rainwater. So as you see, the rainwater being channelized from the roof to the ground. And now they have constructed two big tanks of 2,000 liters each, where they used to purify the water by having some sand filters and some chemicals. Then they transfer that water into two big reservoirs of having 16,000 liters. And that is a response for ecotourism, because people are going, they need more water, and water scarcity is there because of climate change. And so that they develop this kind of local initiative in rainwater harvesting in this area. So, but the problem lies in waste management. There is no process of managing waste. They used to burn the waste or bury in the ground, and that is detrimental for the Himalayan ecosystem, because there is no system of waste collection over there. So you can see they used to collect in this kind of bins and they used to burn the waste. Now, another important perspective is the ecosystem services. So I can shift this one. So, lot of medicinal plants, as I have mentioned, these are the local names like Banmara, Pakhanbek, Titepatti, Utthis, Abhijal. These kind of plants can be used for treating high blood pressure, for bronchitis, for bone fracture. And there is another forest called Neora Valley National Park in Kalimpong region in India, which is a very significant place for medicinal plant source. A lot of species you can find, and the traditional practices also involve the use of these medicinal plants in their livelihood. But the problem is that the ancestors are more concerned about the use of traditional plants. Nowadays, because of having hospitals, medical facilities, people are, the present generation are not very aware about the medicinal plant usage. Another important perspective in Latpanchar is the Cinchona plantation. In 1802, first Cinchona plantation initiated in the Eastern Himalaya during the British period. This is a time like the superintendent of the Botanical Garden of Calcutta initiated in 4 places the cinchona plantation. And the Lakpanchar is one of the places where you can find extensive cultivation of cinchona. And these are the conditions you can find. And Lakpanchar is mainly the village constructed because of the cinchona plantation worker. So these are the cinchona plants. This is the way to a sanctuary. You can find the cinchona plantation here. So you see the development of tourism in just from 2008 to 2011. So the number of tourists, overnight stays, and the main income shifted from 16% to almost 30%. So the tourism is growing. Now you see what are the problems in the adjoining region. So these photographs we have taken during some construction work. One of this is a landslide, massive landslide during some road construction, and also this dam situated nearby, which can have some problem in the land stability and soil stability in that area. So to sum up all these things, micro-scale rainwater harvesting along the hill slopes is essential for conserving water at eastern Himalaya. As I have shown, there are local initiatives over there, but we need more initiatives for micro-scale harvesting of water as we are having more tourists, more population, and establishment of a local training center for the conservation of biodiversity, estimation of tourism carrying capacity, and improvement of sanitation and health facilities, because there is no hospital in that area, only small health center where you can get some minor treatment, and also the sustainable management and disposal of solid waste, controlling illegal cattle grazing, firewood collection and poaching, because these areas are hugely problematic for poaching and illegal firewood collection. So the biodiversity has been under threat because of having this kind of practices. Involvement of local people in controlling biopiracy, because many foreign people from outside, they used to collect the medicinal plants and making patent in their names, so it should be controlled. And promotion of organic farming, vegetative control of soil conservation and disaster management, and the climate change research and adaptive strategies. So these are the references. And this is the valley you can see. This is the lowland of the Himalayas. It's called Duas. You can see the river over there. So Himalayas are divided into 2 parts: the lowland and the highland. The lowland are being covered with so many rivers, and there are mountain areas. So thank you for your patient hearing.
Thank you for presentation. Any comment and question, please? Please, Mr. Khan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you very much for the very interesting presentation. My name is Kang from TIයෙන් U Press. I have 2 questions, which is very interesting. One is what site, how many households are there at the Lakpanchar? Okay. And number 2 is what kind or what times of climate change which cause the hornbills migrate? Thank you very much.
Firstly, there are 2 villages in Lakpanchar. The main Lakpanchar village where most of the cinchona plantation workers stay, and there is another small forest village. It's called Sitong, as I mentioned in my first slide. So focusing on Lakpanchar, the population is around 3,500 roughly, having around 700 to 725 households in total. And Sitong is a small place having only 42 houses of having a population of around 200. So that is the population status. And moreover, about the climate change responses for which the hornbill shifted, I can't mention the exact reason, but it may be the temperature which clicked the shifting of the hornbill towards this area. Thank you.
Thank you. Any question and comment more, please? If not, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Please.
Yeah. Sir, is there any comparable within India? Have you compared it with any other valley region you are studying?
Yes.
So, as mentioned, I have studied several regions in Sikkim, Darjeeling, and also in the Meghalaya region. So, most of the time I found very much similarity with Sikkim and Darjeeling. So, most of the places are very similar. But there are some striking differences in the Meghalaya region, especially in the water management system, because they used to collect the water through small pieces of bamboo. They cut in metal and they choose to channelize water. So there are several differences like that. We are also documenting those differences to have a comparative analysis of different village structure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I would suggest you do the same in South India as well.
Yeah.
In Nilgiris, we do have, in the Western Ghats, we do have such issues of deforestation and severe climate response, climate disasters. Particularly in Kerala this year, there was severe disaster because of heavy rainfall.
Exactly.
So I would recommend you to work on these lines there.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I will do that. Thank you.
Thank you. We have time for more questions and comments, please. Oh, thank you. Next presentation, I'd like to invite this Nguyễn Thanh Mai and Quỹ Giáo of Biến. This presentation is titled The Impact of Climate Change on Marine Tourism in Vietnam. Please. Nobody here? Is this Nguyễn Thanh Mai, please? If not, next presentation, please. Modern of forest resources sustainable use along the Vietnam-Laos border zone in the context of climate change case study in Nau Communes, Điện Biên district, Điện Biên province. Please, Mr. Nguyễn Đức Hoài.
So, as
today I'm here for present about the model forest resource for sustainable along with Vietnam, Lao border, eastern northeast of Vietnam. So in case study, in this case study, we study Nam U commune in Biến district, also in Biến province. I show it on the map. It's a study area. So you can see that here is the Bien province, and this is the border between the Vietnam and Laos, and it's the northeast of Vietnam. So for the study, the model of natural resource and sustainable use in the context climate change. So we first focus is the scientific basis for the how to do construct and developing the model, and we based on the exploitation of history, natural resource and practice in this area, and we have some reference between the National Integrated Adaptation Model and CSA Climate Smart Agriculture by FAO. And secondly, we focus on the approach and methodology, and two main approaches are the sustainable development and community-based, because in Vietnam, Southeast, not in the north of Vietnam, and high mountain community-based is very important, and we use the in-depth interview with the local officer and people in study area. In this area, with the Hmong area people is 100%. They divide to 6 villages, small village, because the Hmong village, the largest Hmong village has about 200 households. But in this area, the households in one village is very small. Some households only 20 or 30 households only. So this characterizes is very important for us when we study the forest management, also how to exploitation and forest dependently livelihood situation of the Hmong people. Natural characteristic of this area is about 600 and to 1400 meter, and the rainfall is 650 millimeter per year, and temperature is 21. And hot here has a very good problem with the hot dry western wind between the Laos and Vietnam border, and very strongly from March to May. And one river here is the Động River, and some very small streamline provide the water. And the natural resource here is mainly the land and forest land. And the land divided two groups, where the crust perlite and the ancient alluvial soil belong the river and streamline. And the cultivation in the crop and field is very thin, it's less than 1 meter depth. So that because
if not, I'd like to invite next presentation entitled Association Between Climate Change and Male Female Ratio of Newborn Infant in Hanoi during the period of 2008-2016. Invites Mr. Bằng. This is Hướng. Okay. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Diễn. I'm working for the Center Developing. I'm working for ASIDA, the Center for Supporting Community Development Initiative to support HIV-infected people. But now here, I'm not talking about the people who live in HIV. I'm talking about climate change because I'm quite engaged in new topics related to climate change and human. And now I'm here to like to introduce all of you about the correlation between climate change and male-female ratio of newborn infants in Hanoi during the period time from the 2008 to 2016. Because this is my graduating thesis of master course in Hanoi National University, and I supervised by Associate Professor Dr. Mai Van Hoon and Mai Van Hoon. And I'm talking about that why I chose this topic because by chance I read the topic like this: will climate change make man extinct? And it was shocked to me because I feel so confused that I have no idea. I have no idea that climate change can make man or can infect man. So I'm thinking about that. Man can be less, can be fewer after climate change, and maybe I can have to get married if climate change is crazy, something like that. Yes. So I'm thinking about that. I'm started reading some paper related to climate change, and I found that climate change has massive impacts on human health. And male-female ratio have been reported to be associated with external factors. So I'm thinking that may climate change have any impact on sex ratio of newborns. That's why I'm starting to researching, and people say that the ratio of male-female newborn infant remain constant during the time all over the world, with the small or little bit bigger male boy. And you can see that the sex ratio of birth worldwide is commonly thought to be 170 male to 100 female girls, something like that. But the people say that this ratio have experienced the downtrend. And many research show that in Japan, in Denmark, in England and Rome, in Spain, in Canada, they say that the trend of the sex ratio of newborn is decreasing, and in USA also. But in Spain and in Italy, the parasites say that they are increasing the trend of the sex ratio of newborn. But in Argentina, parasites show that the sex ratio still remain, and Australia also. So I'm thinking about that, what the mechanisms reflect the multiple factors, including environmental agents, because I found that the circular trend and latitude gradient in sex ratio of birth in Asia during the past 60 years, seasonality of sex ratio in Germany, and the sex ratio at birth, and environmental temperatures. And climate change is associated with male-female ratio of fetal death and newborn infants in Japan. This paper inspired me a lot because I want to test this topic in Vietnam also, because to my best knowledge there are no research to find out what is relationship, or not really relationship, but correlation and association between the climate change, between global warming with the male and female ratio. And so I think that how about Vietnam, and is there any relationship between the sex ratio and climate change in Vietnam? And I start the study because Hanoi is city I'm living, and I will start the city based on the availability of the data and my capacity also. So I decided to research the association between the climate change and male-female sex ratio of newborns in Hanoi during the period time 2018 to 2016. The purpose of the research is to study the efficient methodology by Furuka and his team in Hanoi context. Because I asked him to support me methodology of the same topic in Japan, and execute the basic research into the possible correlation between temperature, warming, and sex ratio of birth in Hanoi, and reinforce the message of protect environment from human cause climate change to be more convincing and powerful, because people will think that they will have to delay the climate change because they think that it will harm their next generation. And I found that there are many factors to impact the sex ratio of newborn infants, including the nuclear radiation, metal mercury, womb, parental age, economic status, temperature, and some preference also. But this research we will focus on the temperature. That's why that we will do find the association between the yearly sex ratio of birth and yearly mean temperature difference. We will count the yearly mean temperature difference by sum of monthly mean temperature minus the mean temperature during the period of 9 years for the same month, divide to 12 months. And here you are the monthly and only yearly mean temperature difference in Hanoi from 2008 to 2016. And you can see that if the mean temperature difference is minus, it means that this month is colder than the whole period. If the only yearly mean temperature difference is positive like this, so it means that positive like that, it means that the whole 2016 is hotter than the mean temperature the whole period. And you can see that I yellow bold. In 2015, you can see that 2015 was the year experienced 11 months of positive mean difference. It means that with the minus very small number, it's minus 0.12. Discriminate, it means that 2015 is hot years over the period. That's why the second I want to test the association between that yearly sex ratio of birth in 9 months later and monthly mean temperature difference in 2015. To test this, we will use the correlation coefficients to test the correlation between two variables. And the correlation coefficient is number between -1 and +1 that measure both the chance and the direction of linear relationship between two variables. If it's near to the -1, it means that strongly negative. If it's nearly to Positive one, it means that strongly positive relationship. But if it's near to zero, it means that there's no relationship between two the light available. And to clarify the signification of correlation, the t-test for the correlation coefficient were formulated as below. You can see that. And I have to find the t indicator is have to smaller than the critical value or bigger than the smaller minus 1.415 critical value or bigger positive 1.415 critical value. So what is the result? The result is the correlation between the yearly mean temperature difference and set ratio at birth of Hanoi from 2008 to 2018 is minus 0.519. It means that at first we can find that it have negative correlation between the yearly mean temperature and set ratio. But now we will find T indicator to clarify the indicator R, and the T is minus 1.61 is smaller than 1.415. So it means that a significant negative association was found between the yearly mean temperature difference and set ratio of birth in Hanoi from 2008 to 2016. And for more visual, you can see the chart here. The chart demonstrates the only mean temperature difference between 2008 to 2016, and you can so that over the period is experiencing the dramatically increasing trend from the minus 1 to the 0.56.5. And you can see that the set ratio at birth is experiencing the downtrend, and it's quite opposite together. The next thing I will find the correlation between the monthly temperature difference in 2015 and the set ratio in 9 months later. The interval is 9 months, and we found that it's very significant negative correlation was found between monthly temperature difference in 2015 and monthly set at birth in 9 months later. And I also tried to test with difference between the monthly temperature difference and the set ratio in 8 months, in 7 months, in 5 months, in 6 months, and I found that such early interval 9 months is the best thing to show the significant correlation between the two variables. So that's why I use 9 months. And for more visual, you can see that the trend of the monthly temperature difference in 2015 is quite opposite to the trend of the set ratio at birth in 9 months later. So the conclusion as long-term effect, the climate change on set ratio of birth will find a significant negative correlation between mean temperature difference and set ratio life birth. The bigger difference yield mean temperature had a smaller male to female ratio of children born in Hanoi since 2008. And as a short-term climate change onset ratio of birth, monthly mean temperature differences in the hottest year 2015 has closely negative correlation with set ratio at birth in 9 months later from October 2015 to the September 2016. So here the recommendation, because it's quite small topic, so the recommendation is not related to kind of policy or some big thing. I just want to make the method for the other research related to this topic to explore with the experimental demonstration to find the underlying mechanism of this association between two variables. And I think that is a good way to provide in-depth and census conduct for both Hanoi, because Hanoi have 4 seasons and Ho Chi Minh 2 seasons only, and we can make the comparison between the 2 big cities during Vietnam to have a more comprehensive picture related to the association between climate change and sex ratio during Vietnam, the whole Vietnam. And the third thing is want to recommend a research to association between climate warming and sex ratio before 2009, because 2009 Vietnamese government report that have some imbalance between the male and female newborn. And I know that have many factors impact to this imbalance, but during the scope of this study, we cannot find out we cannot remove this factor, and we keep this factor as remain unchanged during the period of the study. And the fourth is additional measures to protect the environment, to make more the communication and to alarm and awake the people to protect the environment more. And have some funny that in order to not share the same face as the sea turtle showing 90% of female, so we keep trying to make a bet to keep environment to make the climate change go more slowly as a natural way. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Wang, for your very interesting presentation. But what we did is that we don't have time to discuss it. Yeah? Thank you very much. In this session, the time for every presentation only 10 minutes. So I kindly ask the own presenter to keep the time no longer than 10 minutes, please. Yeah. The next one is I'd like to invite Mr. Biến Thái with the presentation Developing Sustainability Index. Sorry. Yeah. I'd like to invite Mr. Lương with the presentation entitled Research on Sustainable Development Model of Economy, Environment, Ecosystem Niches for Smart Response to Climate Change in Northwest Mountain Region. Case study in North Sampamon, Mộc Châu District, Sơn Province, please.
Good morning, my name is Lương. I'm from Hanoi University of China. Today I would like to present research on sustainable development model, economy, environment, ecosystem nation for smart response to climate change in Northwest Mountainous region. Case study in Northern Commune, Mộc Châu District, Sơn Province. My presentation has 5 parts, starting introduction and finishing in conclusion and recommendation. As you know, climate change is a smoothless problem that we face today. To respond to this problem, many countries in the world sustainable development is the purpose of many countries in the world. So what is sustainable development? Sustainable development is development that meets the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. The content of sustainable development includes environmental protection, economic development, and social development. In the Northwest Mountainous region, has many ethnic groups with limited development has a risk cross-country quarter conflict and rapid population growth. So it's necessary to develop a nexus model for developing economic and ensuring the environmental protection. The nexus thinking is first proposed in the economic forum, the World Economic Forum in 2011. In this conference, the nexus thinking model is an approach to promote efficient use to management and of resources. The mountainous area have a great potential for sustainable livelihood development for local people, especially agriculture. So we have three nexus model for Northwest Mountainous region. In order to develop a three nexus model, we use sustainable livelihood sustainable combined with water, food, and energy model. This study already accomplished through survey and interview with the administrative manager and local people at the Longsub commune. After that, this survey identified factor influencing the development of three nexus model. Study models in spotlight indigenous knowledge in agroforestry production. And after that, this study forms a list of three sustainable development quarters, including ecology, sustainable ecology, and environmental protection. Now turn on the factor affecting three nexus model in Longsub commune. The Longsub commune is far from Mokcho district, about 24 kilometers, and has an area more than 11 hectares. This commune bring characteristics of a mountainous region and subtropical climate. The total population is more than 4,000 people, with mainly Thai and Hmong ethnic. And the mainly economic in this commune is agriculture and forestry. Based on results of interview the aspect related to three nexus of Longsub commune were identified. For economy, production in this community is stable. Products are made to meet the needs of the black. The development of planting food tree, corn, and raising cattle. For environment, the environment in the commune is still good, less impacted by industry. The forest cover 42% total area, and no fire forest in last 7 years. This commune has less disaster, less life happen in this commune, but it less damage to property and life. This commune had crime reduced and no uncontrolled migration. Based on the aspect, we mentioned for economic spotlight model. So firstly, here planting food tree on sloping land model. In this commune, local people plant food tree, but to still able for three nexus.
the local people need to use sprinkler irrigation techniques. The irrigation helps to save human resources and efficiently use water resources, using surface covering to limit erosion, limit risk, moisture, and green organic matter. This is to efficient economic. The local people can raise chicken or bee in this brand too. The second is raising cattle model. Raising cattle model in the commune is based on household size. So and that it have a lot of problems such as limited technique. So to solve this problem, the communities to form cattle breeding cooperative for local. The facility area is also planned far away from residential area to avoid affecting the environment. Facilities are also invested in infrastructure. The third model we mentioned about ecological forestry economic development model. With forest cover nearly 50% total area. But the forest quality is quite low. So we mentioned to need to implement the ecological forestry economic development model. Local authorities should implement well community-based forest management, economic development, and environmental disaster response and climate change. The last model is eco-tourism and service development model. The whole area of the valleys can be exploited into ecological resource, leisure resort, and cultural. Connectivity between fashion area and resource can be accomplished through a biking train for bicycle or tram to ensure environment friendly. About solution for implementation of tree nature. Just this is some solution we mentioned, and conclusion and recommendation. The situation of the economic development of some commune is still very difficult. Some spotlight or model in some commune have higher economic efficiency than traditional. Future research will be needed to implement such model, especially to nature model. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. Next presentation, we would like to invite Mr. Alifa Siamanta Putri with a presentation entitled Executive Consumption and Role Environmental Behavior Among University Students in Ban, Indonesia. Please. No? If not, please, I'd like to invite the next presentation entitled Mangroves Restoration for Climate Change Response in the Coastal Zone of Vietnam. Please, Mr. Liu Benzuk. Oh, our secretary.
Okay. Thank you very much, everyone, to join the second panel today. I think that you are now very hungry because now the 12:15, yeah. And I think finish my presentation very quick. And you know that today we talking more about how about the human impact to climate change. But the last presentation, I would like to show one of the positive impact of the human on climate change. like the mangrove declaration for climate change. One is the coastal zone of Vietnam. I have a four part of presentation including introduction about some evolution of mangrove. Second one is how mangrove restoration in Vietnam. The third is the benefit for the mangrove restoration and some conclusion and the future study, future comparison. I didn't know that the mangrove is a large carbon pool and very rich organic matter for fish and invertebrates, and it's a significant tree reduce greenhouse gas and the important organic carbon source for the cotton water. But when the mangrove forest has been destroyed, you can see that maybe causing the biodiversity, the loss of the ecosystem functionality, and also it means a large amount of the greenhouse gas to the atmosphere in comparison with the growing forest and the natural forest can keep the high carbon in the sediment and the biomass, and also protect the cotton line and provide the many good and service. For example, seafood for the local people. And here I would like to introduce the mangrove distribution in Vietnam. We have a 4 zones of the mangrove distribution. The first one is the northern part of Vietnam. Second one is the Red River Delta. The third one is the central Vietnam. And the last one is the Mekong Delta. And I know that here very many experts about the Mekong Delta here. I would like to say some comment. So, and here is the status of the mangrove in Vietnam. You can see that before in the Vietnam War, using the arsenal as a warning, make the deforestation and the herbicide to destroy mangrove forest in Vietnam from the 4,000 square kilometers until to the very small area. But the destroy mangrove by the orange is not compared with the deforestation by the human activity. For example, the simple how to waste artificial, and from the 2000 to until now, we have some restoration project and to increase the mangrove forest area. And you can see that there is a time to the degradation and urbanization and slightly increase of the mangrove forest, but not so high in comparison with the rate of the deforestation. So, and here is some picture of the conserved mangrove biosphere research. You can see that here is the spraying and the restoration of the mangrove forest. The red means that the vegetation of the mangrove forest color. And okay.
So this is after 18 knowledge.
Yeah. So after 30. You can see that, and overall I look at warm up to some benefit of the mangrove restoration in Vietnam. For example, here in carbon storage, you can see that here is a picture of the old mangrove and the present status of conserved mangrove forest. And you can see that the without mangrove is a carbon storage is very slow in comparison with the mangrove forest. Even if here without mangrove forest, but the sediment and near mangrove forest have received the carbon from the export from mangrove forest. Second one is enhancing the biodiversity and supporting the local livelihood. You can see that here the figure about we monitoring the plantation of mangrove forest in the whole north, Thanh Hóa, Việt Nam. Here the new plantation, and after 2 years, the mangrove mangrove is a significant degree, and local people can get some product on sell is a market. But it is one of the important mangrove section is a coastal protection. Here is a very important thing and a very famous paper about how mangrove restoration and planting mangrove leading the way impact in Vietnam is not coastal line Vietnam. And when with mangrove forest we have a stabilizing the coastal sediment and the maybe potential mitigating the sea level rise, but the no mangrove forest with coastal erosion and the low ecosystem service. And finally, I put some conclusion and future perspective for study. Firstly, the Bằng group is play the critical role for Vietnam cotton zone, including the enhancing carbon storage and reducing greenhouse gas emission. Second one is the protection of the local people and infrastructure under the impact of disaster and climate change. And that one is maintaining the resource and the biodiversity for local community. So we can see that restoration of Bằng forest is one of the most effective way to reducing negative impact of climate change in the cotton zone. And from that, the future study we should focus on some research on the sustainability, value and climate change response capacity of the macro system and other issues. Thank you very much for the session.
Thank you very much, with Zoom. Please, question.
Thank you. Alex Smiley, National Computer Institute. So that was fantastic, very beautiful slides. And I totally agree with everything you say. Mangroves has been understood as one of the most important ways to respond to sea level rise, for instance. And the problem is that, we just finished a few years ago a massive project, German-Australian cooperation, nearly $30 million have been spent in the Mekong Delta. If you now go into these regions, it's a disaster. Right? Most of these mangroves have not been restored. The why is a really big question. So we want to talk a lot about what our proposals for the future. I think a lot of mangrove work is still focusing on convincing policymakers that this is important. I think we should move beyond that. And the next step is how to get it right. How exactly to do it. And I think we had it on your last slide. I think this needs to be really emphasized for the future. How exactly to do it with the community. Because I think there's lots of mistakes that have been done in some parts and lots of successes like in the Red River Delta, where it really worked. So these comparative studies also internationally, I think that's something we need to work on. Because so much money is being wasted on mangrove rehabilitation, which doesn't mean we shouldn't do it. We need to do it. We need to do it right.
Yeah, see why it doesn't work. Yeah. Maybe following the comment of the Dr. Alex, you know that now in Vietnam, we are the country with a high rate of the plantation of mangrove forest per hectare. Maybe the 10 times higher than India, Bangladesh, and others. And so for me, it's very interesting. I think that we should, as our government, should notice in the future. Thank you very much. And very quick question I think that we can make it have a lunch now. Maybe have more time for discussion.
Okay, yeah. After lunch, this how we are Yeah. It is time for us to make closing remark of our panel too. Yeah. Distinguished guests and participants, ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of the panel 2 on human impact of climate change. On behalf of panel chairman and secretary, with great pleasure, I would like to make a few closing remarks and express gratitude to all those who made this event a reality. This has been a really wonderful panel. The panels welcome many participants, including many international scientists from Japan, Taiwan, India, Indonesia, and Vietnam participants, with trans scientific work and has been presented and discussed in 4 subjects. First one is determined interaction between climate change and human activities. The second one proposed best solution for harmonization development between nature and human. The third one is reduce the impact of human activities on climate change. The following are main reasons are obtained from the panel discussion. The first one, the harmonious development is a prior trend for sustainable development and wise use of natural resources in the world. In the panels, the various solutions was presented to develop harmony with the environment, such as rainwater harvesting modern, natural resources sustainable use modern, and an innovative 3E environment, economy, and ecosystem research model. The second, human activities and climate change shows both positive and negative relationship in global and regional scales. Negative impact such as the pollution in Hanoi, riverbank erosion, and impact on marine tourism and relationship between behavior of students and climate conditions was discussed in panel 2. However, the positive impact of human activities on climate change, such as restoration and replantation of mangrove forests for improving carbon storage, effect of climate change on male-female birth ratio was also presented. The third one, various solutions for reducing climate change impact and human activities was presented in panel 2 of HANOI FORUM. The valuable information of in situ stabilization of heavy metal by microbial organisms, plastic pollution management will contribute significantly for reducing climate change impact. The fourth, the key experiences from developing countries such as Vietnam, India, Indonesia, etc. play important role for enhancing climate change awareness and sustainability at community and household level. Further promotion from our panel, 3 points. Development of regional climate change sustainable index. The second, mitigation strategy and policy of plastic pollution in Southeast Asia. And the third one, social economic assessment of riverbank erosion in major river delta. Furthermore, we would like to enhance cooperation, sharing experiences and data among nation scientists for developing the sustainability indicator in the context of climate change towards a sustainable development worldwide. Overall, panel 2 of HANOI FORUM saw the valuable information about the human impact of climate change in both global and national scales. The sharing information and knowledge from HANOI FORUM will contribute to global data on climate change mitigation and adaptation towards the sustainable development in Asian Pacific region. I'm sure we have all benefit in some way from the panel. Numerous information and points of view have been outlined and many messages have been delivered. Many good experiences have been shared and good lessons learned, which we could adapt to further improve our work in this important area. In conclusion, I greatly appreciate all participants, Professor Andrew Law and international guests at Vietnamese College. Your presentation has been invaluable and without a doubt have helped make the event a great success. We also grateful to all VNU staff who have been involved in organization of the event and ensure it ran so smoothly. We also greatly appreciate the journalists and reporters of the media who have come to attend and report the forum news. Thank you. Thank you very much. us again. Now it is the time for us to have the lunch.
Thank you very much everyone to join the second panel today. I would like to invite all of you to go to the Marriott Cafe to have a buffet lunch. Okay. And you can go out and turn Thank you very much.